Hang on, hang on. Let's see. This to work. All right, it's good. There you go. So I didn't realize that GitHub stickers were such an amazing social currency. I think someone almost punched me in the neck over there. It was amazing to see people go after GitHub stickers. So thanks for having me here. Again, my name is Mike Brevoort. I, like many of you, develop software for a living. But today, I'm giving non-technical talk, for the most part, on education. So I was very happy to see a litany of technical talks leading up to mine. So I work at Pearson. We're the world's largest learning company, where we have a simple mission: to help people make progress in their lives through learning. And I believe as software developers, we really have a unique opportunity to improve people's lives through learning. So thanks again for having me back here in Lisbon. Thanks, Pedro, and David, and Nuno, and everybody. It's just really been amazing. So I want to start off with a little bit of perspective. There are 253 of us or so here in the audience from 24 different countries, which is just amazing to me. Now imagine if all the people in the room represented the population of the entire world. A third of one of you would live in Portugal. 26 of us would live in Europe, 40 of us would live in Africa, and 28 of us have no access to clean drinking water. 31 of us are hungry or malnourished, and only 101 of the 250 or so of us even have access to the internet at all. That's 40%. So good thing to keep in perspective. And only 17 of us even have a college degree. So relative to the rest of the world, all of us here today are privileged. And if you lined up the 253 people here that represented the world's population, from the wealthiest to the least of these, we would really be in the front of that line. And I say this not to make you feel guilty, but to give you some perspective. You know, in fact, most of us had no choice in the matter at all. Did you know that the most significant factor in determining your place in this world was your parents' place? That's right, our parents' prosperity is the world's greatest predictor of our own prosperity. And so, if we're destined to follow in our parents' footsteps, to follow in the path set out for our parents before this, how do we rise above? How does one live a life more fruitful than that of their parents? And in the same, more pressing vein, how do we enable our children to lead a life that exceeds our own prosperity? This is really the desire of every parent, is it not? To see that your children are afforded the opportunities in this world that you lacked. And so by far the most predictable way to outrun your own destiny is through education. And education is fundamental. The ancient Greek philosophers believed that education was a lifelong process of drawing forth the full potential that lay within. And education is the most powerful life catalyst in the world. Nearly every factor of prosperity of people and communities positively correlates to education. For the poor, education is the most promising route to a better future. It prevents the transmission of poverty between generations, and children whose parents have little or no schooling are more likely to be poorly educated themselves. Education is one of the most powerful ways of improving people's lives and health, and of making sure that the benefits are passed on to future generations. For example, basic awareness of proper sanitation and the use of mosquito netting goes a long way to prevent the spread of disease. In the world's poorest countries, a child born to a mother who can read is 50% more likely to live beyond the age of 5. And education promotes tolerance, trust, and helps people understand democracy, and motivates them to participate in politics. It plays a vital role in preventing environmental degradation, and education can empower women to overcome discrimination and assert their rights. For many looking for a way out, education is the only sustainable road to a better place. However, there's a stark and significant gaps in access and opportunity. Worldwide, there are 57 million primary school-aged children who are out of school. These children are often forced to leave school due to the need to earn money to support their families. Girls are often forced into early marriage or bonded labor. And the basic costs of education can easily consume a poor family's income. And the costs only grow as students age. And cost isn't just a third world problem. So for instance, between the years 2001 and 2011 school years, the price of an undergraduate tuition at public institutions in the United States rose 42%. That's 42% adjusted for inflation. So in other words, the cost of a degree has nearly doubled in a decade. And also in the United States, the average student graduating with a bachelor's degree has accumulated $33,000 in debt. In fact, in the US, it's no longer possible to work your way through school without accumulating a significant burden of debt. Meanwhile, the value of a degree is falling. The average lifetime earnings for a full-time worker with a bachelor's degree has decreased 1.6% annually since the year 2000. To further complicate things, the education system of the 20th century is quickly becoming outdated. Before the age of information, before the web, schools and teachers were gatekeepers of knowledge. Lecturers and the university library had a monopoly on information. And for thousands of years, content and information was a scarcity. But today, it's a vast, unwieldy, accessible commodity. And the system of education developed for the Industrial Revolution was steeped in discipline, uniformity, standardization, and memorization. Information alone was precious, and regurgitating it was valuable. Students were taught to respond with the correct answer, and creativity and critical thinking were implicitly unrewarded. But the world is changing. The economy is changing. The monotonous jobs of yesterday are being consumed by technology. But conversely, new opportunities emerge. The 21st century knowledge worker needs to be dynamic, adaptive, always learning, and entrepreneurial. Students with a university degree are no longer guaranteed a job. And there's a growing gap between the skills employers require and the skills of today's graduates. In other words, new graduates are struggling to find jobs, while employers are struggling to fill entry-level positions. And the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development states in a recent report that countries need to provide good basic education in childhood and adolescence that equips people not just for the jobs of today, but for the ability to learn new skills for the jobs of tomorrow right through their lifetime. In other words, it will be more important that students learn to learn and form a disposition to learn and create and do to stimulate lifelong learning. You know, one of the interesting changes that's happening in post-secondary education is the unbundling of sorts. For example, the unbundling of a degree program from the research function of a traditional university. There's also an unbundling of the degree programs themselves. Why shouldn't a student be able to choose which courses to take and from which universities or instructor, whether in person or online? And what is so magical about the four-year degree anyway? Is a Bachelor of Computer Science degree more reputable than a list of courses with certifiable completion, including data structures and algorithms, machine learning, natural language processing, web development, and the like? Students should be able to choose their own learning paths and build their own portfolio and make sound investment decisions on a course-by-course basis. And we're starting to see that happen. Also, why do we front-load education? Why do we spend the first 20 years of our lives in classrooms and the next 40 in a workplace? It sounds a bit waterfallish, doesn't it? We're going to spend the first third of our lives preparing and anticipating for what skills we'll need for the next 20 or 60 years from now. As if nothing in the world will change. We should apply the same agile and iterative development techniques and principles to education. We should embrace a lifelong iterative approach to work and learning. Which brings us to an overwhelming question: what can we do? These problems are large, systemic, and overwhelming, and there are many policymakers and institutions searching for solutions. But I think real, meaningful, impactful change will not come from the top down, but rather from the bottom up, from a groundswell of purposeful innovation. And so by now, you're probably wondering, what the hell does this have to do with JavaScript anyway? Well, in some ways, not a lot, but I think that JavaScript is the language of the web, and the web is the infrastructure for change. And I believe that education will be revolutionized through the web. Learning is such a pervasive yet personal common ground. Education has impacted us all in very unique ways. And I believe that most of us want to help, but we're either too busy or just don't know how. So I ask you to consider your own experience for a moment. Think back over your life about what was most impactful to you about your education. What were the pivotal, life-changing moments that shaped your life? And what do you remember about them? Can you think of something? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to stand up, or I'm not going to ask you to shout out your answer here. I would love if you shared with me maybe later today. But for most of us, I would say, most of us, when we visualize these moments, I bet you don't see a textbook. I bet you don't see a school or a building or a computer screen for that matter. I bet you see a person. And I bet you had a connection with that person, a relationship. Maybe not very deep, but you had a connection. And I bet that person was instrumental in making you believe that you belonged, that you were worthy. Maybe they helped you unlock your passion, identify your purpose. And most of all, they made you feel like you could do it, that you could do it, which is so important. And maybe this person was a teacher, a parent, a coach, a mentor, a leader, a classmate, a coworker. All of these people have one thing in common. They're just people. Like you, seriously, we're all just people trying to find our way through life. And if you think back to that pivotal moment, and I bet if you asked that person if they remembered that time, and if they knew how important it was to you, that they may not even recall it, or at least had no idea of the magnitude of impact that it had on your life. Most times we think of teachers in the formal sense. But did you know that every day you were teaching? We're all teaching others how to interact with you, how to deal with you, modeling for others how you deal with situations by how you deal with situations, teaching others how to respect or disrespect each other by how you treat them, online or in person. Do you know that you have a profound impact on the lives of others around you? In the most unpredictable and seemingly unmemorable ways. Transformation in education will happen through teachers. So we must invest in teachers. And remember that we all have the capacity to be teachers. So the goal for LXJS this year is to encourage new developers to learn about new tools, frameworks, and technologies, becoming leaders in their local area, empowering their community. Well, a lot of times we're all new developers. We all have something to learn. But we all have something to teach. Every single one of us. And the difference between those people in your lives that impacted you and everyone else was that they invested in you. So I ask you today, who will you invest in? As software engineers, designers, developers, computer scientists, regardless of how you identify yourself, we are all in a unique position. We are beneficiaries of education. It has enabled our livelihood and given us incredible opportunities. But we are also creators, makers, inventors. Like industrial manufacturing engineers who create the machines that make the machines, we create tools that enable others to create. We create tools for teaching and learning. We can create new ways to disseminate information, new methods of collaboration and group work, new adaptive, personalized learning experiences, and we could help democratize education. More than any other profession, I believe we each have the power to change the world. This sounds very sensational, doesn't it? Don't believe me? Take Salman Khan, the founder of Khan Academy. Not the Indian actor, though. I'm sure he's fantastic. But in late 2003, and they look very similar, actually. I mean, if you go back and forth, they look really similar. It was amazing. I had no idea that the other Salman Khan exists, but he's very popular. So in late 2003, Sal Khan began tutoring his cousin Nadia in mathematics from afar over the internet using a Yahoo Doodle notepad. Soon, other relatives and friends sought his tutoring as well, and he began publishing his tutorials to YouTube. Today, Khan Academy videos have been viewed nearly 500 million times. And Khan's goal of helping out his cousin has grown into a life mission of changing education for the better by providing a free, world-class education for anyone, anywhere. Sal Khan was not a professional software developer, but he leveraged the tools and capabilities made possible by people like you and me, and Khan Academy employs many developers today. This is one example of a person who took an interest in the learning of one other at the time, and is now using technology to literally change the world. Is it Salman Khan or technology that is having such a profound impact? I say it's Salman Khan through technology that is making a difference. He is a teacher. He wasn't even a teacher. He was a hedge fund manager. And now he's a teacher amplified by technology. And the value of education is learning, not instruction. Teaching is irrelevant if no learning occurs. And such technology and education is irrelevant if no learning occurs. We must temper our estimations of the impact technology alone can have on learning. Technology will never replace the teacher. And technology should never replace the classmate. Even with fantastic advances in artificial intelligence, we as humans crave bonds with other humans. We are social beings, and it is in our nature. As Simon Sinek describes in his book, Leaders Eat Last, there are two chemicals in our body, our physiological makeup, that reinforce social behavior: serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin is responsible for the feeling of pride, accomplishment, and fulfillment in ourselves, and more importantly, in others we care about. When my daughter first learned to somersault or tumble, she would say, "Daddy, Daddy, 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 look," trying to get my attention. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, look," waiting for me to look. And as I glanced over, she would throw her head down and her heels over her head, and she would roll through, looking to catch my eye, waiting for me to look back, beaming at me with pride. And I would look back at her, super proud, right? And say, "Good job, honey." And as we did that, we both got a boost of serotonin through that relationship. And it was so important that I watched her. I mean, think about your own experiences, right? The difference from doing that alone and doing it within a group. This sense of fulfillment and pride occurs through the lives of our kids as they graduate from preschool, kindergarten, high school, and a graduate university, as they show us their report cards and so on. The bond occurs with teachers and mentors and coaches as well. We share in the accomplishments, live vicariously through others, behaviors enforced by serotonin and our own human physiology that technology just will never replace. Oxytocin, on the other hand, is released within us through physical contact, a hug or a handshake, and even the image of another human being we care about. It's released reciprocally with acts of human generosity, and when others use their time and energy for our good. These human bonds matter. Technology should not try to replace the human, not to try to replace the teacher, but instead amplify the teacher and enhance the learning experience and get out of the way. There's one more example I'd like to tell you about that I just love. It takes two needs, one that perfectly serves the other. The CNA language school in Brazil has created the speaking exchange. It started with a simple idea. There are many young Brazilians learning English who need conversational practice, and many elderly Americans living in retirement homes who are lonely and just want someone to talk to. So let me just show you a brief glimpse of what they did.
We created a tool that connects our students with seniors in the USA living in retirement homes.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Melissa.
Hi, Dick. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
It's the first time that I'm talking with someone from another country.
I'm very excited to be doing this.
I look like I'm only 25, but I'm 88.
Do you have sisters and brothers?
No, I'm one child.
Only one? Oh, you poor fella.
I live with my old brother. He has 23 years.
Do you know, instead of saying he has 23 years, you could say he is 23 years old.
I want to thank you for this change of experience, You are incredible.
Obrigado.
It's just amazing, right? So these relationships, these bonds are actually reinforced by a little boost of oxytocin. It's amazing what technology can do, even when it just gets out of the way and links people together. So there are two things that I want you to do, that I ask you to do. The first is invest in others. Not your money, but invest your time and your energy. We stand near the front of the line, and we are so fortunate to be able to do what we do for a living and to live the way that we do. Instead of clawing your way further forward, turn around and pull someone up. And whether it be family, a neighbor, someone in your community, or someone on the other side of the world, share what you've learned freely. Pouring into others is never a bad investment. And remember, we're all teachers. And the second thing is to go and create and to make and invent new ways of connecting people that improves learning and that improves people's lives. If only for one person at a time. Don't expect that your government or school officials will take care of this for you. If we are to truly democratize education, we the people who are capable and care enough must act. You're all fantastically talented. I'm humbled to be here. Don't hoard your gifts. Pay them forward. Imagine the impact that we can make in education and the lives of people around the world if we did. Thank you.